We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by. You can't say
Oh,
and Bridget.
and Bridget. Yeah, it doesn't have the same
Nope.
effect. You can find me at youtube.com/at Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
And today we have quite the menu, a buffet, if you will, of episodes to discuss of Earth Abides. It's the fourth, fifth, and sixth episodes of the mini series that is Earth Abides. The titles are Predators, The Return, and Forever is Tomorrow is Today. And I know this because, and I love that title because it is an early David Gray song. And I was into him. I'm like the hipster. I was into David Gray before everybody liked David Gray.
I literally don't know who that is.
You don't know who David Gray is? Oh, wow.
No.
He is a Welsh-born singer-songwriter
Okay.
who started his career in the late 90s and made his way in Ireland. And he became
What's
very big.
one of his songs?
His White Ladder album was the best. Please forgive me if I act a little strange, for I know not what I do.
No.
Anyway, okay. All right. If I play it, it has that kind of a looping, that particular song has like a looping musical track to it.
Okay.
So if you ever listen to it, you'll recognize it right away. Maybe. But anyway, Forever is Tomorrow is Today is one of his early songs. And it shows up, I think it's in his second album. And it's kind of a deep cut. And I'm loving it because, I mean, we also had World Without End, which was it's obviously a reference to Isaiah, but it's also a reference to a song, A World Without End, and I forget where World Without End, and I can't remember who sings it. I just remember the line in the
Dave just
song.
wants to sing on live tonight.
I guess I'm just singing all the time today. So yeah, let me see what this live. I mean, we look pretty good on TikTok. I think
I'm trying to get us a lot of likes. There we go.
Mission accomplished. Bridget alone give us a TikTok.
It's just
notoriety.
like this. It's just like 3. It's just
yeah, I keep singing it. It's like
yeah,
flip, 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 flip. Nobody cares. Nobody's popping on. You know what it is? I went live a couple times on our account, and nobody. And the times that I went live, I just went live to go live just to kind of see what would happen, and it does blow up. It's just
you wasted our lives, Dave.
I did. I wasted our lives.
Oh man,
the days of our lives. So, but you kind of have to. It's like you can't not do it because at the same time, if you don't go live, then nobody knows that you're a live person. But then when you do go live, it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's talk about these episodes. These episodes 4, 5, and 6. The titles of which are, again, I'll remind you, Predators, The Return, and Forever is Tomorrow's Today. So I think we should talk about feelings first because there's a lot of ground to cover, seemingly, at least because it's 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot to go through.
Contrary to initial reactions from when we first saw this series, we had a lot of let me put it this way.
It was disappointing. I think we had a lot of disappointment in I think what our hopes were for it at the beginning. Let me preface this
in aggregate.
Yeah.
Because I still liked the first few episodes. Yeah.
You did. And like I said, I was willing to give it a chance. But the third episode is really what turned it around for me.
Because of the violence, the gore,
obviously.
And the effects.
Yeah.
Which made going into the 4th episode kind of cool too, because he's on the operating table. It's like, oh, look at that gash. It's great. Oh, he got messed the F up. It's so great.
Yeah.
I love it. Look at that black eye effect. How do they do that? Rachel says somewhere at some point when she watched it.
Some way.
Yeah. So, hey, Woody. We're talking about Earth Abides. Feel free to join along. So, I think, in my view, I think the series was always pretty good, but I kind of like how it's a vignette of 6 episodes. It's a mini series.
Yeah, I wish they had advertised it as
As
such.
that, I agree. I agree. And they
I
should
feel
have
like
because it manages expectations.
it was kind of a flop on the marketing department for MGM Plus. Now, granted, MGM Plus is like a newer
Network.
streaming service. You can tell by the price. that's that's usually when you know is when it's
Yeah.
less than
Yeah.
$10
Yeah.
is
It's
when
like
you know.
about 8, right? With
Yeah, I think
ads,
so.
I think
Like
it is.
6.99 or something maybe with ads.
Oh, what am I paying?
I don't
Anyway,
know.
something
Uh,
exorbitant, usually.
uh,
Dave's not on the
um,
couponing circuit.
well, this is one of those ones that I'm like, now that this is over, please, please God, just let us not cover any more MGM Plus stuff for a minute so I can cancel it. like so that,
I'm spending
so
so
that I
much
don't
money.
have to pay for
Anyway,
it because I'm paying for so many streaming services right now. As
I hear
that
you.
is the bane of like podcaster existence is the streaming services. But so yeah, I think we all kind of came into it. Well, you did not, but the rest of us came into it like, meh, this was okay. But by the end of this whole arc, I feel a lot differently about it. I did enjoy it a great deal. I in these last couple episodes, like the last 2 in particular, I did have like some emotional breaks where I was like crying or something would happen and it would make me like kind of like gasp or have like a verbal response. And I have been also, for those of you who don't know, I have been also listening to the audiobook of this in the car. And so I am more than 5 hours in, still have 7 hours remaining, and I actually hit a point that happens in the last episode in the audiobook. So there's still like way more to the book that I do not know, but
You said
I hit
5 more, 7 hours more? I
7
forget.
hours. I hit the death already
The death?
of
I thought they
Joey.
I thought they diverted from the book with that he didn't die in the books, but I guess I'm
I
wrong.
don't know if it's him or if it's a different kid. But like he does have a son pass away. And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I gotta shut this down. I can't listen to any more of this until I watch the episodes." And now that I've finished it up, I'm like, I do want to finish the book and I still will. I don't know that there would be a point going live again after that to talk about the great comparison between the
We
two.
could
You and I can
if you
talk about it
felt
later.
if you
If
felt
there's enough there.
prodded to, yeah, we could do
Yeah, if
that.
there's enough there. We'll just have to see what happens. But
It'd be a nice
I
vignette.
I've enjoyed it. And you keep saying vignette, which is so funny because
I know. I'm so
vignettes
sorry.
no,
I
because
felt it. I
vignettes
felt
are a
it.
big part of the novel, which is something I
Right. These
wanted to mention because you have brought up every episode, you have brought up those beautiful vignettes at the beginning, the opening sequence video.
finally somebody who
Okay.
appreciates the little title sequence.
So you've
Hi,
brought them
Juicy
up.
Tea, by the way.
You've brought them up and you're like, yeah, these things were happening and we've been skipping them. So like we don't even pay attention. But it's a nod to the book, Dave. It's been
Is
a
it?
nod to the book the whole time. So,
What? Okay,
I
explain.
wanna read an excerpt from the books to show you why this is a nod to the book. So, the way that
Mhm.
the book is written, the way that George R. Stewart wrote it, is that it tells it's traditional storytelling. It's the perspective of Ish. But then there's these cutaway vignette lines that mention things about nature because Ish is a scientist. So they're written very scientifically. So here's one of the first ones in the book. Okay.
Okay.
All right. During most of the 19th century, the African buffalo was a common creature on the veldt. It was a powerful beast with few natural enemies, and if its census could have been taken by decades, it would have proved to be increasing steadily. Then, toward the century's end, it reached its climax and was suddenly struck by a plague of rinderpest. Afterwards, the buffalo was almost a curiosity, extinct in many parts of its range. In the last 50 years, it has again slowly built up its numbers. As for man, there is little reason to think that he can, in the long run, escape the fate of other creatures. And if there is a biological law of flux and reflux, his situation is now a highly perilous one. During 10,000 years, his numbers have been on the upgrade in spite of wars, pestilences, and famines. This increase in
A line from
population
the show.
Yep. This increase in population has become more and more rapid. Biologically, man has for too long a time been rolling an uninterrupted run of sevens. So
That
that's
another line from the
that's
book from the show.
yeah, that's an excerpt from the book. So it goes back and
Nice.
forth. So you'll get like some of the chapters are super long. So like for instance, chapter 3 I think is like insanely long. So you'll get these
Mm.
really long pieces of narration and kind of
Monologue?
this storytelling by Ish, where he's like kind of talking about like the things that have happened, and then all of a sudden you'll get these little vignettes where it's like written almost like um a textbook, or when you get like a science, like a nonfiction science novel written
Okay.
by like a entertaining author. They'll tell stories in this way where it's all factual, but it's written
You
in
know,
go
it's like the
ahead.
exact opposite of a recipe, right? You know how the recipe has the thing that you actually want,
Yes, yes, and you have to
and then
read
but they include
10
this
million.
long thing that we don't want. Well,
Yeah.
that's the long thing that we don't want is the science. Just kidding.
Yeah,
It's anyway.
sometimes.
It's like a Pinterest recipe. Anyway.
So yeah, so I don't know. It was kind of cool to see that, and to see like to make that connection finally, like this is why the title sequences change at the beginning of each episode, is because of
Also,
these
yeah.
vignettes. It's a nod to this novel. And there are a lot of nods to the
Yeah.
novel,
Yeah.
but it does diverge. It does diverge. But it was interesting to kind of see the similarities. It diverged really early on, and they did not do this in the show, but
Mhm.
the reason Ish survives the virus, he had the virus. Okay? And I think
Oh.
the opening scenes, the first episode makes more sense when you understand this. So like it's been interesting because reading the book almost became like a companion piece to the show in a
Oh,
way.
okay.
So instead of
Right. The
cuz
book basically fills in a lot of data.
I'm a big advocate for like if you're really into like a TV show or whatever, watch that first and then go read the book, because to me, the
Yeah,
books
okay.
always inevitably ruin whatever the other media is. The books are never
Right,
going
so
to be
why
able
bother?
they're never going to be able to capture it as well as a novel does. To me, that's how I've always felt that way. I think the one thing that isn't really the same was The Walking Dead. It diverged enough from the comic book and really gave you more depth to the characters that you just didn't receive in a comic, because a comic isn't that kind of media to always
Yeah,
deliver like
that's
so much character development. It's kind of hard because it becomes these long blocks of text, and it's like that's not really what anybody wants in a comic
well,
book.
even in a comic book, you can only do so much too. We talked
Yeah.
about this actually in the early days of our podcast, how it just doesn't translate. It just
Yeah.
can't translate. The
Yeah.
comic book is geared to look at things a certain way from certain points of view that you could try to replicate, but if you tried to, it wouldn't come off like you would normally see a television show.
Yeah.
You need to account for the fact that the faces are moving and that some things don't need to be said.
Yeah.
And you can only have so many pages of just illustration and no words. When meanwhile, you can capture that in just fractions of a second
Hmm.
on screen,
Yeah.
and that would be enough,
Yeah. But this was one of those situations in which I'm really glad that
which wasn't
it wasn't the case. They actually worked tangentially to each other, like in tandem. Like, sorry,
right
not
as a
tangentially.
compliment.
In tandem with one another. It worked together, and all of a sudden it kind of became this companion piece. So, the first episode, I'm sorry, I'm backtracking so far right now. The first
Hey,
episode,
Mia, by the way,
um, when we're talking about Ish is so sick, like in the cabin, and we assume it's from the
post snake
rattlesnake
bite,
bite. It's
right?
not. he has the
Oh,
virus.
it's a brown recluse, by the way. We never got to that because we're so busy complaining.
A brown
It,
recluse
actually,
is
it was.
a spider.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. It was.
So that's not
I
right.
could go back to the notes. I'm so sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Anyway,
You're right. I'm
it
gonna go
doesn't
back to my
matter, Dave.
notes, but
It doesn't matter.
but
What I'm
it
saying is
does
it
matter.
doesn't
I worked
matter.
so hard.
Dave. What I'm saying is that he's actually sick with the virus. And in the book, it goes
Western
into a
Diamondback.
okay. It goes into a whole thing in the book about how the venom in his bloodstream must have fought against the virus, and that's why he was able to live. He encounters another person. I believe it's Maureen. I can't remember, but one of the
Oh,
characters
oh.
that comes into play later was also bit by a rattlesnake as a child.
Hmm.
And so it kind of becomes like a piece to the puzzle. So when they kept focusing on his bite in these last episodes and he says he's going to give his blood to Joey, I was like, give his blood,
The immunity.
give your blood, because like maybe it would have fought off the virus. Because that's what it does in the book. So that part was like, some of it was kind of frustrating because I had more information than
For
the
you,
average
because you
viewer.
read exactly. Yep.
But
Mm-hmm.
it did kind of shed some light on why he was so out of it in the cabin, why those people didn't want to come in because he was like flushed in the face and stuff. And yeah, you can assume it's from the rattlesnake bite, but he most likely was carrying the virus at that time.
Well, yeah, and they don't know, so
Yeah.
that makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
So it was
So,
just kind of interesting to get this information. He also travels across the United States. He does not stay
oh,
in that area. He travels across the United States and he actually meets Marty and Anne in New York City, Dave, which I think you really would have enjoyed that aspect of the book.
did we meet Marty and Anne in the show? No, right?
In Vegas.
Oh, okay. So not Vegas. Okay,
Not Vegas.
right.
Not Vegas. He does not stop in Vegas. He meets a couple
He
people.
goes to the New York City hotel in Vegas. No, I'm kidding.
He
He doesn't,
meets
but
he meets
that
like
would be
a
funny.
couple people here and there, but the mention over and over again, Marty and Anne do not off themselves. That isn't what happens. He leaves them assuming that they will probably die in
Do
winter.
that. Oh,
They will just
ooh.
die.
I see. I actually liked what they did in the show though, because I think that's a real thing,
Well,
especially for city people.
what happens is he runs into people much earlier in the book and they are drinking themselves to death, hoarding in like insane ways. Like it's just showcasing all of this mental illness stuff. Like they are just so broken. And he keeps saying, he's like, I would ask them to stay, but nobody seems to be like okay enough to stay. Like they're all in a state of shock that they can't seem to pull themselves out of. And so he just moves on every time. Every time he meets someone, he's like, something's just not quite right. I'm moving on. And he ends up coming all the way back across America, back to California, back to San Lupo
Mhm.
Drive. And that's when he actually meets Emma. And that
Right.
story, because as we know, it was written in 1949 or whatever, that story is a little bit different. There's some racial stuff there. Not like in a bad way, just in a kind of unprecedented for its time way.
Right. It was ahead of its time, but still not where we are today.
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
accurate?
Correct.
So
Correct. Yes.
within context, it's an opus of racial equity.
It
But
is. Yeah. It's one, it's the thought. He kind of has this thought where at the time it would have still been outlawed for them to be married, I believe.
right. In most states,
So
sure.
she
Misogyny
apologizes.
laws.
She apologizes to him when she becomes pregnant. Like almost
Oh,
out of
wow.
fear. Almost out of like a
Right.
fear. And he says, he's like, it's only us. Who cares? Like we set the rules now. None of those
Right.
rules exist
Wow.
anymore. Everything is past.
Wow.
Which
Kinda
is
like
really
it.
cool. It was like really cool to see. So there are some really cool aspects to the book. I highly recommend reading it or listening to it in the car if you're like me and you have a long commute to and from work. Worth it. But those were like the really big things that I just really wanted to bring up because it was
You
cool,
just
Dave.
vomited it all out.
I'm
It's great.
sorry.
I
I'm
love it.
sorry. It was so cool.
It's fine. I kind of want to backtrack a little bit because of the people giving up thing. I
Mm.
think that's what I wanted to backtrack on. Because that's the thing. I don't disagree with the sentiment that that's not what we want to see on a show. I don't disagree with that because it's hard. You want to see people make an effort to try to survive, but my other side of my brain was like, this is accurate. This is so accurate. How do you not how do you not think, I mean, it's very easy to not think that people would just lay down and die. And it's not like we haven't seen that before too. But
Well,
what really oh, go ahead, go ahead.
well, and what's interesting is like Ezra actually plays a much larger part in the book because he's
Hmm,
kind of one of the only people outside of Ish and Emma. And Ish talks a lot about Emma's bravery. She's not especially smart in specific areas or anything. She's not like a natural hunter or any of that. So we don't get any of that information from her that like her
in
dad
the
raised her in
book.
that way in the book. But
Right.
he talks all the time about how she has this like innate bravery that she can just like chin up, kind of face the world. And that is really cool to see. But Ezra is really the only other person who's kind of like on their wavelength of being kind of out of
Truly,
the
you're saying.
shock. Like, yeah, kind of out of the
Oh, I
shock.
see.
Because even the
Yes.
other people they bring in, because Jorge is named George in the book, Maureen exists, Jean, Molly, they all exist. And Rafe is actually named Ralph in the book, which is just like a much more time appropriate name. So it makes sense.
Great change up.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, they're much more like kind of written to be like truly ancillary characters, like not as bright as Ish. He goes as far
They're
to even
there, is what
say
you're saying.
Maureen is very stupid. Like she's just like that's what he says about her.
In not
And
so many words,
yeah, and George
or
is
maybe in so many words.
George is not very well spoken. So he can't like muster like put together like words well.
Meanwhile, on the
Um
show, he
yeah.
gets me.
Jorge
He
is
gets me
great.
every time.
So that just have to say like the
He
changes
might even be a little bit too much, by the way. I
I
wanna
love
say that.
him. I love it. The changes that they
Wait,
did make are so appropriate for our time. They make they only all they did was improve it, honestly.
mm,
Now
yeah,
I
the
haven't got to the end of the
roundabout.
story, so maybe I'll have different opinions about this later, but as of right now.
Well, let me put it this way. So, when you were talking about people embracing hedonism and kinda like drinking themselves to death because they don't know
Mhm.
what to do with themselves and all that stuff, that is the lyrics to the song "Forever is Tomorrow is Today." Because in that song,
Oh.
let me just go through my meager notes because the song is really about scroll, 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 scroll. It is about uh, possibility against all obstacles, first of all, because what's the point of life? And obviously, the title is Forever is Tomorrow is Today, meaning live in the present because tomorrow isn't promised. And
Yeah.
today is all there is. And why put off tomorrow what you can do today? And that today is your tomorrow starting now. Don't wait. And then there's in the song, there's also fear of mortality. Life requires more than material pursuits and temporary distractions. Temporary distractions. It requires purpose. You can't ignore it. You can't hide in your room because one of the lines is shutting it out and camouflaging your heart, things like that. You're trying
Mhm.
to hide from your obligations, responsibilities, what you ought to be doing, what you should be doing, the thing that drives you to live. People will do that. I feel like they could have touched on that a little bit more in the show because they did touch on the idea of COVID and how well the response
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
overblown during COVID, so it didn't leave much room for when this came around and really destroyed everything. But
Yeah.
the idea of being shut in and having some interplay when it came to well, they did say something about that when people started getting sick again. They gotta mask up and shelter in place. Okay, fine, granted, you went that way. That's fine.
I
But
loved
this
what he
idea
said during that moment though. Ish's
exactly.
response
Go
was
ahead.
it was exactly what it should have been. It doesn't that's not gonna stop it. It's this is happening. We're
Right.
not gonna live in fear.
Right. Exactly. we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it.
Mhm.
It's you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
You can try to segment yourself, but then we're just leaving ourselves open to the next version of it.
Mhm.
Let's say.
Yeah.
So you can't wait till tomorrow because today is all there is. Damn all those who tell you it isn't possible because or look at you as though you're crazy when you tell them that this is what you want to do, this is what you want for the world, this is what you want for yourself. Because who doesn't feel that all the time? We're doing a podcast and everybody goes, "Oh, you're a podcaster? Hmm. Do you make money?
Oh,
No.
you don't? Oh, you pay?
Yeah, oh, that's
That's
sorry.
great.
Oh, your life is a bouquet of flowers, isn't it? Anyway, that the whole so I wanted to hone in on the actual hedonism part because it's seeming more and more to me that this song can apply to the first episode too. Is that it's everything. This song is everything. All the
Mhm.
episodes. It's what we decide to do. And I think the big prevalent theme that really goes through this is, and I love how this comes back because that one line that he says in I think it's World Without End, or maybe it's the second episode. No, it's World Without End. That one line where he says, "You're going to be disappointed." It stuck with
Mm,
me when he's holding up Baby Joey. I think it was Baby
yeah.
Joey. Yes, that's right, Baby Jojo, and it stuck with me. And it's those lines about what parents pass on to their children, and it's their fears. Oh boy, oh boy, and that's why Joey's death hit me harder because it the best show don't tell that the show does, aside from like when we were talking about is Evie autistic, etc.
Mhm.
Fine. I thought it was a great version of a show don't tell because it didn't have to be said.
Yeah.
They gave you enough breadcrumbs to kind of go, oh, okay. Oh, and trauma. Oh, okay, fine.
Mhm.
But that because it wasn't the important part. It was just a
No.
factor. And but the best version of it that applies to everybody is this thread of what Ish puts on Joey is exactly what his parents put on him
Yep.
as an only child too, and he treats Joey like an only child too, which is really
Mhm.
it's sus and it's obvious. Alex reminds us every chance he gets, which is sad
Yep.
and also a little annoying for us, the audience. But going back to that whole situation, he did do that to Joey. And then when it was finally over, you get the sense that because he says, Dad is looking at me as though I'm already dead.
Mhm.
And it's so not true what Joey says. He's already got this brain fog. Oh, he never gives me a nickname. No, he calls you Jojo all the time, you idiot. So he's all foggy, and all he can think of is that because he's sick, he can't fulfill his dad's promises or
Yeah.
the expectations that are placed upon him, which is what Ish was going through the entire time until the last episode. He wanted
Yeah,
to
he's, like,
do
trying
what his
to
parents said. He wanted to
hold
educate
up
himself.
all of society, which is just so ridiculous. Because
Such a tremendous
why are you trying to
expectation.
uphold this broken system that wasn't really working to begin with? Like,
Oh, here we go.
it's not perfect, Dave. Like, you and I both agree with that. I mean, really any
It's
American
perfect.
can agree with that.
No, it's
I'm
perfect as it
extremely
is.
I'm extremely thankful that I have freedom. Like, I'm super thankful for living in the United States. I am not one to
So
take it
jazzed.
for granted. I'm not saying like it's not. I'm very blessed to be here. Truly. Especially because you and I both come from immigrants.
Yeah,
So like there was a chance we may not have been here, but we are, and I am very
praise
thankful
be.
for that. I'm very thankful for that. But the system could use adjustment. And if it all fell apart today, I would not say, yes, let's put it up exactly as it was.
So there's a lot there for me
FBI
to
don't come for
comment on.
me. Okay? Just like just don't come for
Here's
me.
the thing. Here's the thing. I in this I love this. Let me tell you. I love this tension because this show tickles that part of you that we often talk about, that you talk about more than I do, which is, well, I just maybe I don't want to go to work, and maybe I don't want to, to hold up a job and thing, to have the foods and things, and it just is this what life is all about? Talking to people, it's just,
Yeah,
I know it's just I don't like it, and burn it all down, burn it all down, says Bridget all the time.
I do.
It's the Walking Dead universe effect. Is
Yeah, it
that
is.
it's a chance to do to fulfill promises, to keep in touch with friends because we have to, and Ish says it at the end of the
It's a
episode,
chance to wipe the
we have
entire
to.
slate clean and say, like, "I get to be who I wanna be now." That's really where the idealization comes from.
Right, it's wanderlust porn mixed with,
Yeah.
I could be whoever I wanna be
I
right
think
now.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we moved as I was going into high school, and I had, like, crippling social anxiety. And so when we moved, I don't know what happened. I had some lucid moment where I was like, "I can be whoever I wanna be now." And that was it.
Yeah, it was me in
Suddenly,
college.
I was a different person. Suddenly, I could say whatever I wanted to people because I didn't wanna be afraid anymore, and so I wasn't afraid anymore, which was
Mhm.
ridiculous and resulted in me saying a lot of things to people I probably shouldn't have. But I th
Agreed,
I
yeah.
th I think that's why I
I said a
connect.
lot of swear words.
Yeah. I think it's why I connect so strongly with that concept is because it feels nice to be able to say, like, I don't have to deal with the trappings of society, and I could just be who I wanna be. Here's the thing, like,
Yeah.
spoiler
Mhm.
alert, we could do that at any time.
True. And again, that's the tension, right?
Yeah.
Because you're free to be whoever you want to be, but you are often trapped by the people you want to impress, in various varying degrees depending on who you are. You're trapped by, well, if I want to get this, I can't be caught doing that. I can't be caught saying that. I can't even go near that.
Sure.
There's all these, and if there's less of society to not have to be that way, well, then okay, then I can be that without worrying about, because who cares at that point? Dude, there's
Yeah.
only you that's left. I'm not trying to impress you. You're gonna have to accept me no matter what, because I'm the only one left in the universe, basically. Basically, right? There's like 77 people, additional people by the end of it, including the caravan that they took in. Anyway, my point is
Oh, it's more than
the
77.
tension. Well, right. Plus 77 of the people that are already there in San
Yeah.
Lupo. So, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is I love this tension because there's a part of me that it has a reaction to the idea of, well, human nature is designed in such a way that we often try to excel. We try to outdo ourselves. We try to improve on things. And sometimes that comes with a lot of baggage, right? In order to improve on things, you have to tap into that incentive mechanism that causes you to want to achieve more. It's not about money, it's about prestige. You want to master a craft, or you want to do and it's usually it's part self-serving because of the accolades, or because, hey, I did that thing, but it's also something that you're giving to the world, like the flyer, like the radio antenna. It's like, well, it's not just for me. I like the credit, but it's something that I want to give to the world. It's like
Yeah, like
music.
the betterment of society.
And maybe yeah, betterment of society, but maybe
Yeah,
just to give to the world, like a gift.
sure.
Like it's like music. Music is like that a lot, because when people perceive music, they usually think, "Oh, I love this artist. He's so great. It's great. It's an awesome song. I love him. I love him and her and them together, whoever they are, this band. I love them. And you know what? They're the best." Like, no, they did this for you and for them because they wanted to create something and show that thing, but mostly for you. They threw it out into the universe. This should be the attitude of every artist. They threw it out into the universe. They said, "This is who I am in song, and what I think in song, and what I believe in song." and I wanted to just create something beautiful to add to the universe for you, for human, because who else is it for, really? Who else is it for but people, is what I'm saying. So that's how things should be. But we all know the music business. We all know technology and patents and property rights,
What
right? The dark side of all that
what
stuff.
is happening? We're like you and I are like
We're going all over the
we're
place.
like going all over this is insane.
I'm explaining the tension between the creation of beauty and then all the other stuff that gets in the way
Okay,
that I
I
don't
get it,
like
I get it.
necessarily. That's kind of what I'm saying, is in its purest form, in its purest expression, it's something that adds to the universe. But then the other stuff that we've created also to protect the artist, but also doesn't it add interference in the pursuit, right? Adds noise, right?
Yeah.
The patents and the rights to this music and the
Yes,
artists and
yes,
the
yes.
contracts. Oh my god, the contracts. If I don't make enough sales of this album,
Dave, I can't we can't keep
I
doing
gotta
this.
pay back the label. Anyways,
Stop.
you get what I'm saying. The only reason I'm going on and on about this is because there's a part of me that's like, well, we need these things. But then there's another part of me that's like, you know what? You're kind of right-ish by the end of the show. You are kind of right. This is a chance to do it over.
Yeah.
And had he not included the line of, if we can live in harmony with nature, maybe we can live in harmony with each other, it would not have worked. It would not have worked at all. I would have been like, Ish, you commie. You post my,
Stop.
because here's the thing. No, I'm gonna tell you, because only because of that one thing that really bothered me. Maybe there is an explanation for this thing. When they're at the crossword puzzle, Alex is cutting up the apple, and Heather goes to her
What's
mom
a
Emma
six-letter word for interrupting?
for interruption, right? And they're like, apples. Oh, that works. You postmodern constructivist pieces of shit. I'm going to use the S word. It's fine. Because I spent
Oh my gosh,
too
I
much time
can't.
being like, that does not make sense. You're just making things up. You're like, oh, that's okay. That works. That works. That seems to fit the boxes. It doesn't really matter anyway. Thanks, Amber Dixon, for the hearts and me going crazy. Did you understand what they said? Because I didn't.
I was like,
Who cares? It fits the boxes.
yeah, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, well, it doesn't matter. We make our own rules now. And I was like, yeah, okay, we get it. It's a one of those.
See,
Do you get it, Dave? Do you get it? Do you get
and
it?
I didn't. But you know what? I thought that's what they were trying to come across with that, which made me
It was
upset.
a little bit hokey, honestly. That was
A little
probably the hokey.
heavy-handed.
That and then his speech that he gives to the children were a little too ham-fisted for my liking. But for everything else, it was fine. Because if he could have just it could have been delivered differently. I felt like the whole grandiose speech to the children, the next generation of I don't know. It all seemed so
The earth is your teacher.
it's like okay, that's fair. Totally fair. Get that. What have you been teaching them? Is suddenly my question. Now I'm like, what have you been teaching them?
Oh, well, okay. So it's a micro version of what he was doing to Joey, right? Joey, he puts everything on, but on these kids, he's like, you guys are the future. We need to prepare you. You need to rebuild everything. And then he snaps the chalk and he goes, why are we doing this? Why? I was so obsessed with bringing it all back, and we
The
could
earth
because
is
we
your
have all this
teacher now.
stuff. So I didn't mind that at all. I think he was just driving the point, and it wasn't really for the audience, and it wasn't really for the kids. It was for himself. He was saying this for himself. He was making a stand for himself. And really, there's a sadness behind all of it, because that's
Oh
what,
yeah.
I'm not saying that that's what got Joey killed, but that's what made Joey's death the saddest part, is
Yes.
because of the last words being of I'm disappointing my dad because I'm dying. That's essentially what it is, right?
Well,
That
that and
and that the show don't
ugh,
tell.
his
Oh,
actual last words were devastatingly brutal. But
yeah.
how will I find
Oh, how
you?
will you find me? Oh my
Oh,
god.
I can't talk about it. I
Because
can't talk
because
about
that's
it. I can't talk
Ish.
about it.
Because that's Ish. Ish is like, I don't believe in things. There's no mercy in this world. Ooh, I could see Bridget being like, "Oh, this guy frustrates me. How do you not believe?" I thought I thought there were was it Jesus in a foxhole? What's the expression? No atheists in foxholes,
There's no
right?
atheists in foxholes.
How can you
I
not believe?
I have to say it's also in the book. Ish doesn't believe in the book. He's not a believer. Um
Right.
there is so another fun fact is that they name all of the years. So that's why it's like year 1, year 2. So they determine that when once Emma becomes pregnant, they're like Emma's like, we have to have a way to tell the time so I know when the baby's birthday is. And it's just like, what an oversimplification. Like, so like a woman to worry about that. And then as time goes on, he thinks about it and he's like,
Ooh,
actually, she's not wrong. Like, we do need a way to be able to keep track of things. So it's like anytime she brings up an
just for their
idea,
health.
he always does this whole like self-gratifying, like,
You're stupid.
I'm so much smarter than everybody else here. And then as time goes on, it turns out that their ideas are valid and that they do have
Mm,
good ideas. And he has to kind of relent and say, that was the right choice. And it happens a lot with Emma because she has kind of like a sly way of giving him pieces of information that I think he's missing. It's kind of,
mm.
it comes across really gentle. Anyway, so they talk about this. And so then when they go and carve it into a big stone. That's how they keep track. Cause she says, she's like, well, some people, on a desert island just carve it into stone. We could just do that. Because you got to remember they don't have solar power in the book. Power is not a thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, it's
Right, right,
just like
right.
camping forever. So they go to chisel it in. And she says, I know that this is year 1, but I will think of it as the year of the baby because they were going to have the
Oh,
baby.
okay.
Okay. So
The
each
year of Heather,
year,
let's say.
they start naming each year after things that happen in the year. So it's like year of
Mm,
the baby, the year of the cows, because not only do the rats become a population problem, but so do cows. And it fluctuates as like time goes on, like every animal's like kind of fighting for the top spot. Because man is no longer the predator that he used to be. And so it's kind of like
right, and
going
for
in this
3
like
years, it was year
weird
of the deer because those effers.
yeah. So it was like
Oh,
this really
they're the
cyclical,
worst.
weird kind of thing. Like, so they have, and then there's one year where all of this bad stuff happens. Like, there's locusts
Storms?
and all of this
Oh,
stuff happens. And when that happens, they call it the bad year. And that's just how they keep track of time. And so the
hey,
years
Shauna.
being numerical in the way that they do is from the show. It's the same thing, which I thought was kind of
I
fun.
see.
I don't know where I was
Yeah,
going
well,
with
it's a
this.
lot
I'm
like
so
the
sorry to
oh,
interrupt.
it's like the Chinese years, right? Like year of the rat, year of the it's
Yeah,
kinda
kind
like
of.
that in a way
Yeah.
too. No,
Um,
but I think you're right because I think I associate things that way. "Oh, that was the year that, the
mhm.
podcast, took a crap on something."
No, it's
Whatever it was.
nice.
Oh, it's the year of Charity. Oh, it's the year of Rachel. She joined.
It's like,
Oh, Shauna says, "I haven't watched this, but it sounds interesting." And hello.
"Hi,
It's like,
Shauna."
yeah, we're talking about Earth Abides. Yeah. Well, I don't want to
Yes,
spoil it for you, but at the same time, it even if we
we're
tell you
spoiling so many
details,
things for you.
I think
Spoiling
it
so many
doesn't
things.
really hurt it
It
though.
doesn't. I don't
In
think
in
it
a
does.
rare yeah, in a rare moment for me of me not wanting to spoil anything. The show, even if I tell you something from the show, when you watch it, you'll feel a certain way that, you know, but it just my words cannot explain, even if I go into it deeply.
And hi,
Rob
Rob.
says hello too. Yeah, yep. Oh, you're seeing it too. Good.
Yeah.
Everyone
Well, I
deserves to
have
be
it up on
spoiled
my
from
phone.
time to time. I wouldn't say that, Shauna. I wouldn't say that. We're not spoilers. But like at the same time, if it makes you watch the show at this, I think it, and I think you should.
I will
And just to
say,
recap,
get through the first
okay,
couple
go ahead.
episodes because it starts off a little slow, but it's good.
Yeah, I got first
Give it a
three.
shot.
Right.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot. I
Yeah,
promise.
because it is a
Okay.
moment.
Dave,
Go
what
ahead.
were you talking about before I spiraled into the year thing? Because there was something in particular I was bringing up, and then I just got distracted.
Oh, it was the music and the music industry and how, oh, you're bringing something beautiful, but it comes with all this baggage. But that's the tension, right? The postmodern thing. Oh, so let me finish that thought actually, because the apples and the interruption. Okay, whatever, postmodern. But then he says the line of, if we can learn to live in harmony with nature, maybe we can live in harmony with each other. That
Mm.
saved all of that stuff because it was veering into an arena. And he even goes on about having this moment of awe. And I don't mind the moment. It just, it
Oh,
came with all this baggage.
faith. That's where this had come from. One of the years that they talked about was the year they went to church. That's what they call it. The year they went to
Wow.
church.
Okay. Oh,
So,
faith, right.
yeah, so it's all about faith. So George was a deacon, Maureen is a Christian, Jean is a Christian. So they come to Ish and they say, like, for the children's sake, because everybody's having kids, for the children's sake, we would like to have church so that they have like a model to follow of like what's right and wrong. And so Ish,
Yeah, a
even though he
basic
doesn't
framework.
believe,
Sure thing.
he relents and he says, "Sure, fine, we'll do it." And so I feel like even like he maybe has to lead it because like George can't because he's not well enough of a speaker like to do it. Anyway, so they do that for about a year, and then at one point, like one of them, I think maybe it's Molly, doesn't. Maybe it is Jean. One of the girls that's with Ezra does not believe, and she thinks it's so stupid that they're going, and it's kind of created this like division in the group. And so in order to get rid of
Mhm.
that, he abolishes church, and he's like, we're not doing
Who
this anymore.
does? Wait, Ish?
Ish does. He's like, we're not doing this
Oh.
anymore. And the way that he kind of, in order to like not then make everybody else upset, he combats it by saying at the end of each service they would have a silent prayer where you could pray about whatever. And he said from now on, it is just one long silent prayer. That was like how he.
Mm.
So anyway, this idea of him like not having faith is in the book. Now, I don't know how the end of the book goes, so I don't know if he does find awe in the world around him, but you and I have talked about awe a lot, especially when we covered
Mhm,
Daryl
mhm,
Dixon, because we talked so much about,
mhm.
the religiosity of everything and like, and this kind of.
The subtle nods to religion,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we've talked a lot about how awe is often kind of that overwhelming feeling that you can only that's how
Of
really I can
greatness.
only really describe the feeling that I get when I become overwhelmed by something to me that God has done. So for him to use that word, I don't know, like to pan, because sometimes I drive over a lake like 3 times to get to work. And sometimes
Mhm.
I don't even look at it. But
It's like wallpaper.
some days it catches me off guard. And suddenly I'm like overwhelmed with the awe of like the world is a really beautiful place and we just like we ignore it.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's like when Ish sees that sunset, that perfect, perfect sunset, it is like as though I took this for granted for so long. He goes on about how, well, this sunset, Manish Chana, what makes this sunset better than every other sunset? Because there's no chemicals in the air. That's not true. The chemicals actually make the sunsets better. Let me just put it that way. But it doesn't matter. That's
Well,
okay. I can
yeah,
throw
but
it
I love
aside.
that he's
That's
like
what
the
we do.
scientist in me would say it was this and this and this that created this.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
he was
The earth is
learning to let
healing.
that go.
E exactly, and here's the thing that before I get into the here's the thing part, Shauna, it's a book and a show.
And a
So the
show.
show is on MGM Plus. Yeah, show is on MGM Plus. It's a miniseries, so it's 6 episodes, which is good to know when you step into this because I think it sets expectations about what this is about. And you can watch them all together now that all of them have been released and have this framework in your mind of, okay, this is only 6 episodes. Treat it as one big long movie. And then you'll be fine actually. or like movements, right? Each episode is a movement in a way,
Yeah.
or an
Yeah.
act.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
that really will carry you through.
yeah. Yeah, in the
But
book, they do,
also, oh,
like I said, those chapters are really long at the beginning because they, like, going really in depth with, like, year 1, year 2, year 3, and then the next chapter after they kind of do that is called the quick years. And it's like things are
mm,
just happening, and it happened in the show too. They nodded to it with the time jumps. The quick
big
years was
ones, yeah,
like
6
when
and
the babies
7.
were born and then the kids were growing up and, like, everything was just moving really fast for them. And that's what those quick years are. So I just thought that was kind of cool
Yeah,
that they did follow along with that pretty closely.
yeah. Well, what I wanted to say about the awe thing was the thing about Ish that is very interesting to me is how deeply aligned I am with this version of his faith. Because I do contend this is something that we kind of brought up in the beginning and we didn't go back to it until we're bringing it up now. His one of his instincts in the beginning was to head to a church. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it was for to find out if people are alive. I don't know if it maybe he thought people would gather there because that's a community sort of situation.
Mm.
Could have been anything, but his instinct was to go to a church. He did a thing in I think it was the Return, right, where he kills Charlie, the Negan character of this freaking series, which I wanted to touch on finally.
Yes, we'll talk about
But
Charlie for
he
real.
does this. So I'm going to relay this story again that I've said before on the podcast. Okay, but when I was 20 years old, uh, my second chance at college, I'm in Chicago with a bunch of friends. It's a Friday night. We're road tripping from Chicago. We drive into Michigan. It's the middle of the night. It is dark as F. We're driving a Toyota Corolla, a 1982 Toyota Corolla, with what we didn't know at the time. The lights are kind of pointing too far down. So we
Mm.
couldn't see as much in front of us as we could have or we should have. And what happened was we had driven over, but it was more like we were flying over a tipped cow on the highway. The cow was tipped back facing us, so we used its back as a ramp. And we were all screaming, and all of us had a different reaction. Some of us, wait, let me explain. Let me explain. Some
This
of
is
us,
a nuts
one of us
story.
was silent. One of us screamed out loud. One of us, pointing to self, had a religious crisis of what does this mean? We just killed some. It was already dead, probably, but we just killed something. Blah blah blah. So that was me. When Ish had killed Charlie, he put the weight of that decision on himself, not knowing
Mhm.
what it would feel like afterwards, having to do that. And what does this mean? And not really thinking maybe in his life that he would ever have to kill somebody. And he has, in his own way, a crisis of faith. And we've seen this before. And it infrequently pops up. His struggle with where is the mercy if this happened? Where where is the absolution? Where is forgiveness? He talks like somebody who has religion in his mind,
Mhm.
even though
Yeah,
he
he does.
wasn't he didn't grow up particularly religious. But I identify with that so much because when something happens, you struggle, you clamor for some answer, some meaning. What book can possibly tell me about why I'm feeling this way? And does this feeling go away? How do I get rid of this feeling that I'm feeling right now? And religion is the shortcut, usually, right? And it's how our brains, and there are even some people who say that religion is almost like an evolutionary component uh in our so it's an evolutionary component in our makeup, is that we cling to it because there are mythoses and stories that we use to kind of categorize our way of life. It's our way of making meaning of the things that happen to us and how to react in the world. It's our shortcut to kind of understanding the world, right? The world that we occupy, and what's the shortcut? What's the answer that we should be doing? Oh, religion tells me this, or this story tells me that I should be doing that, et cetera, et cetera. So Ish reacts in that way. And I bring this up only because it is a lot like There are no atheists in foxholes. We are always clamoring for some sort of meaning and understanding and purpose. What can we point to help us through this situation? And I like that it's so realistic to see that in this series from this particular character, because we all feel that, religious or not, we all feel that. Some of us feel like, oh, I have an easier reach for the answer,
Mhm.
but and others struggle, even though they know, they've read texts, they've seen other religions, they see how they operate, all this. But we still have that feeling of we need answers. We want to know what comes next. What do we do after this? So, it, probably one of my favorite concepts throughout Earth Abides is I'm not religious at all. I don't believe, but and yet I want to believe, or I want to feel like there may be an answer out there. It's like the conspiracy theorist thing, right? Well, I don't really believe this, but I enjoy thinking about it.
Sure.
That's that sort of
Yeah.
thing, because it kind of adds magic to the world, right? A
Well, that's
component of the unknown that
yeah.
maybe could be true.
Yeah, I know, because that's the disagreement my husband and I always get in when I'll be like, "Well, I believe in Bigfoot." And he's like, "No, you don't." I'm like, "But I do though." And he's like, "But you don't." Like, I know that deep down you do not believe Bigfoot is real. And I'm like, "Yes, I do. I do believe that." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm always like, "Because I want to know that
Because it's
there's
fun,
still mystery in the world. That is exciting to me. I want to know that there's still things that we haven't discovered on this earth." And until
the
recently,
unexplained,
I
right?
really liked not knowing whatever happened to Anastasia, or not knowing what happened to Amelia Earhart. Those things were mysteries that like, that's what I held on to all through childhood. So like when they're solved, all of a sudden
Headcanon,
it like takes the fun out of everything. I don't want it to.
right? Well, what was I trying to say about what was the show that I said no, they could stop the show here and they can live in headcanon land all forever in my mind. I forget what
I
it was that we
don't
were
remember
talking
what it
about.
was, but yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah.
"No, you don't. You don't want this story. You don't want this. You don't want a continuing story with
I don't want
these
anything
characters."
else out of this.
No, because in your head they live happily ever after with no other threats, even though you kind of think in the back of your mind, "Oh, they're dead in another year," right? Because of course it's the apocalypse of some kind, and that's bound to happen.
Yeah, I don't
Headcanon is the best.
the part that I as a Christian, the part that I really enjoyed about the end of this was that he doesn't come to my faith. You know what I mean? He doesn't come to my faith at the end of it, but he also doesn't have a complete lack of faith anymore, and that to me is a win. So, it felt
Thank
do you
you,
know what I mean?
Jesus. Yeah, yeah, I know what you
Like,
mean.
it felt
He
like a
he
win.
I often think about that a lot, actually. A lot more than I'm actually usually ready to admit, because I often think, let's just talk in terms of my own faith, or my own whatever. Let's just call it my faith, even though I'm not a observant person. I often use it as an anchor for answers, or for, hey, my mind thinks this way. I use this as a framework at the very least of, hey, that's kind of beautiful. Hey, that's a quick answer to life's challenges or happenings, or like I can look at
Sure.
this and say, well, this, the Torah believes this, etc. Right? I often think that people who don't have, or don't cling to faith, or don't have that roadmap, they get to the answer eventually, but it takes them much longer to get there. Maybe science has an explanation, or maybe a story holds a certain meaning to, and then you kind of get there somehow through mythos, or story, or things we say, or music, right? Often people have music
Yeah.
that they kind of say, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. Little do they know that the artist believes in Jesus. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like they got it from somewhere. Nothing new under the sun here. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
I do often, I don't know if the right word is envy, but when it comes to folks who have faith, they live in this interesting world of, well, here's the answer, bro. Just point to the
Well,
book, and
yeah,
that's the
I mean, I
roadmap, and it's right
constantly
there.
that's constantly my opinion on it, is like, I have been through a lot in my life. We've talked about it on the podcast. I haven't even told all the stories on the podcast. I've told you some stories that I haven't told on the podcast, but
Mm.
I've been through a lot in life, and so to look upon trauma and know that people go through it without faith, like, hurts me, because I just know it must be so much harder for them. That's all I can
Right, to get
think,
to that
is because
peace or to get
I
to that.
I get to rely on my faith. I get to say, "Well, God took care of it, and it went the way that it was supposed to, and I have to trust in his plan." And so, like, that's what I get to tell myself, even when it's like, it sucks and it hurts, and I'm not saying that that doesn't happen and I don't get mad or that I don't feel disappointed or any of that. Of course, I feel all of that. But I have that backup of knowing it's kind of out of my hands to some degree. I have free will, so I
Right,
can do what I want, but I'm choosing to trust a higher power is taking care of it. So to me, it's always been
right.
like it. So seeing a character who went through a lot finally come to that realization that there is something beyond himself made it satisfying because you don't feel as sad for him or know that it's only going to be easier from here on out for him.
Yeah, even though it took him longer to get to that answer, he got there. And I think most people do, or most people find a way. I just think that people of faith can get there a lot quicker because there are shortcuts. I mean, religion, it's a framework, it's a shortcut for these moments in your
Sure.
life where you face these challenges, or you're faced with a proposition of deciding to do one thing or the other. Well, sometimes faith can guide that decision, or faith can make the more difficult decision easier to bear, et cetera, right? These are things that people who don't have faith have to go a further field to grab different sources of data sets to help them make the decision, to feel good about that decision, and to guide them through the consequences of that decision. That's
Yeah.
it's a and that's why I feel similarly to you, is that I do feel sometimes that, oh, I wish this person knew that, oh, this religion believes in that, and if you go through this situation, you shouldn't do this or that because, well, really, yeah, that does screw certain things up. And there's a guidebook to help you through these things. And even if it doesn't have the answer that you want, at least it's like, hey, we've been here before. It's like an AA meeting on paper. This isn't new. I've experienced the same thing that you did. It's on paper though.
Yeah.
And it's something you can go back to and read. You're not alone in the universe, is what it is. This has been done before. You're not going through something that somebody hasn't gone through before, ever. And I think I'm glad that in its own show don't tell way, they did that with Ish.
Yeah.
Because we all feel what he feels, but some of us come at it from a different point of view or from a different background. And it's a hard thing to do on a show, is to say, I don't believe in anything. But dude, Brett, you do a little, don't you? You
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You have this crisis of faith without saying that you're having a crisis of faith, bro. Or you're
Yeah.
saying there is no mercy. It's all run out,
Well,
right? Because of the
plus you go
virus and
get
whatever.
you go get your best friend and say, "I don't need you." And he goes, "Why did
I
you
need
ask
to
me?
borrow your
Why did you
faith.
come get me?" Because I'm not a man of faith and you are, and I need it right now.
Right.
I
Right.
just
Yep.
oh, Dave. There's
I'll take
there's
it all.
so many good lines. There's so many good lines because then Jorge's like, God's not in the suffering, he's in the mercy.
Mm-hmm.
It's ugh, it hits.
It's
It
the
hits.
we talked about this, I think it was in, I don't know if was it in Earth Abides? The whole idea of he was there. Oh, uh he was there when the stone was rolled aside. What was that? What was that from? It was a piece of music that was in the episode. Was it in Silo? No. I think it was in
Mm, was it in From?
I can't remember.
It was
I was
recent.
thinking it might be from, yeah, it was one of the shows. But yeah, he was there when Jesus was walking down the avenue and the cross and the crown of thorns, but he was also there when the stone rolled aside, and he wasn't there
Oh, yeah, were
anymore.
you there when they
Oh,
crucified my Lord? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that had to have been from, because I remember being like, "That this is so unusual that this is in a TV show that I'm watching."
Mm, yeah, but to get to the point, it's kind of like he's there with you when you are suffering because free will makes it so that things can happen and you make decisions and well, God will lead you towards that decision. He'll try to give you signs, but sometimes those things will happen. Sometimes life is like a car accident. It's you're not in control. You're not at all in control. And it's part of a formula that was set in place from the very start of creation. But he's also there for the times when you are for when you need his mercy or when you need that salve. He's there with you in both times. You know, God is in the mercy, right? God is in the relief of pain
Mhm.
too. Anyway,
Yeah. We
which is
can
such
move
a
on
good
from that.
contrast from
We've talked a lot about it, but we
yeah,
can
it's
kind of
my
move
way of
away from
segueing
that.
to what Charlie says about scars, how they're how God keeps time. I think it was part of it, and then
Yeah.
also what how much more punishment a man can take and how much more mercy, which I thought was
Mhm.
a really interesting way of kind of showing what those are and how it
Yeah.
relates to Ish directly.
Yes. Yes. I know it was interesting commentary. Everything about Charlie was so much of an enigma at the beginning where you're like, "Do
Oh,
I trust
scars.
him? Do I not trust
Right,
him?"
right. I love that because let me say the whole quote. Scars are God's math. His way of keeping track of how much more punishment slash mercy he deserves. One deserves, right?
Mhm.
So yeah. Anyway, so it's kind of like a score, right? And it's no mystery that at the end of the show they talk about lemon ball baseball and how we're obsessed with statistics and measuring
Mhm.
things and ranking things. And if you
We're
look at the
pattern
scars
seekers.
conversation, yeah, yeah, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. Well, it's our way of kind of like, well, where are we in the universe? Oh, but then again, apples, we
We make
make the
up our own
rules.
rules
I'm
now.
sorry. Anyway, sorry. Going back to Charlie, this series is Negan, basically, which, and I love that it was abridged also in a way. The mystery of that entire episode up until the end, and I like you, Ish, and I wasn't expecting that. Oh, why'd you say that?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Why?
Yeah.
What? I think I'll stay. The episode ends. You know, I think I like it here. I think I'll stay a little longer. Did we shake on it? And all the while, you're thinking the same thing Emma's thinking. Is just she's just tail spinning. It's that instinct to be alone after
He
all
did the
these
same
new
thing
people
with
come in.
Ezra.
Exactly. And Ezra's quintessential new people person.
Yeah.
So, and he's the worst. Ezra's the worst. We've proved it with that dumb joke of his.
I love Ezra.
No, I love Ezra too. Ezra's my guy. He's my Ish. Out of the two, it's like I get him way more than I get Ish in a way. Anyway,
He's a much more relatable guy. And I will have you know, the polygamy thing is in the book.
the book. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Way ahead of his time.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Ish
And it
has his
makes sense,
reservations
right?
about it at first. He's like, that's so unusual. But then he's like, but there's only so many people on this world now and we have to repopulate. So yes, it makes
One
sense.
man, two women.
More
How
efficient.
biblical.
It was
Yeah.
interesting. And he goes on to say, like, it used to be a thing in the past. Why would it not be a thing again?
Right. And for the sake of expedience, I will allow it.
Yeah,
Right. It's like,
it's just interesting. He's got a very clinical mind in the book. He really it's like very, very scientific. We see some of that in the show, but it softens over time. But for him,
right,
it like
right.
takes even longer to soften. It's like it goes on like that for
And
a long time.
that's great because we secretly we like it when our characters maintain their archetypical foibles.
It's
We love it.
Carol.
Hey,
Hi,
Carol.
Carol. Thanks
Guys.
for coming.
She's.
Yes. I'm super excited.
Okay, so
Let me stop pinning.
we've been going on and on and on about so many different things and really haven't talked a ton about the episodes. So, we've talked a lot about the book because I've been listening to the audiobook of it. And so it's just kind of filling Dave in on like all of the differences
Mhm.
there. And then we've talked a lot about we had a very deep religious conversation until a couple minutes ago
Ish.
because it's a big part of the last episode. So now we're kind of going into like the Charlie stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this series is Negan, basically.
Right.
Well, how about we throw the ball over? See, this is where like everybody hates me. It's like I figured I'd throw the ball over to you, Carol, because, and by the way, in our introduction of Carol, we should mention that Carol just stepped off of a live stream
She did.
of her own podcast, Relishing the Dead, who are great friends of ours, and we love you guys.
Well, we
And
appreciate it.
well, how about we take a break and say, what did you guys talk about tonight? You guys did like, I think it was like a recap of some kind, right?
It
And
was
what
a
you're going to be
recap
doing
of,
in the new year.
yeah, well, it was a recap of our 2024 and all the guests that we had on the podcast. And we just kind of, just shot the crap with each other and people in the comments and kind of talked about favorite moments, favorite people that we met at some cons, just different things like that. It was a lot of fun. It was just kind of reconnecting with the audience and you know just kind of getting down to earth and telling some really funny stories and stuff like that of what has happened to us this past year. So it was cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to do that a long time ago. But we were just talking about how we want to kind of do that again. Like we used to have our holiday specials where we just talk nothing. What are we going to be doing during the holidays? And
Right.
we did one year we did a Secret Santa thing where we exchanged gifts on air, like just surprising each other. This is definitely
that
pre
was
you,
fun.
Bridget. I'm just saying, way before you.
Oh no, I know.
What-
I know. Who
Yeah,
has time?
most of the people that yeah
We
yeah
don't have
exactly.
time.
Nobody has time. Earth Abides, Silo, From, Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. Do you know how we did more shows? We covered more shows this year than any other year of our podcast.
You guys
It was
have,
I didn't the ones who live was this year technically. What the
Oh yeah, it was. Oh wow.
it crossed over? I think something like that. Yeah, early of 2024.
Yeah.
Fallout. God.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
true.
know
Anyways,
shows that you guys covered this year because I stalk your guys' pages and watch your guys' videos and stuff and there's just so many shows out there
I
to
know.
discuss, and you guys have nailed all of the good ones.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're trying.
we're not so sure about this one.
Really, I know this is a really random thing, but I have to address something. Apparently, there is a snake in my kitchen
Right now?
right now.
You're
So
living in Earth Abides.
I am. I am. Nature has taken over and has decided that it is going to. Did you?
Well, if you can live in harmony with nature, then
I
maybe
can
we
live
can
with
live in
snakes.
harmony
Snakes do not
with each
bother me.
other.
The snakes do not bother me at all. It's the eight-legged, creepy thingies.
Oh, spiders
I
over snakes is what you
have
hate
an
more?
unnatural fear that they're going to get in my hair and like nest, and
Yeah.
it's really, it's crazy. So
Look at Kim Rowley is saying hi. Kim Rowley whispers. You remember Kim Rowley?
Hi, Kim.
She says she can't hear you so much. Are you able to up your volume on your end
I
somehow?
mean, my volume is pretty much all the way up. But let me check. Yeah, it's pretty much all the way up.
You go to control panel unless you
I
have a
know.
Mac, in which case
I
you're
know.
lost.
She knows. She's an
Thanks for
expert.
mansplaining, Dave. I appreciate that. Fantastic.
It's the IT consultant in me. You hit the
How do
and
I
then
work
you look at the little thingy there.
Yeah. No, that's about as high
Hey
as it.
Kim.
Sorry about that, guys.
You know what it is? We have to
Oh,
like
no, you're
not talk
fine.
over her.
Yeah. Do you need to go get the snake?
No, see, I have men in my house
Okay, good.
that,
We
yeah,
just saw one of them with the cat. The cat will take
Okay,
care of
good.
it, right?
yeah, the cat. My two
Ideally.
cats will definitely take care of the earth abiding in my kitchen.
That is
Mm.
intense.
I hear
Ugh.
ferrets are a solution to this. Yeah. Woo. So anyway, what I was saying was, why don't we throw it in terms of the Charlie arc? Why don't we throw it over to you? What was the thing that really grabbed you about that arc?
Okay,
The
so
one thing that is noteworthy.
I am really, really bad with names of characters, but I'm assuming that Charlie was the bad guy.
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
he's the Negan.
you got it.
Yeah. No, he wasn't.
Down to
No,
the trailer he stepped out of near the end. He's like
I
he's
know.
having his own little moment.
Right. Yeah. The
It
only
was
thing he was
definitely a nod though, right?
I think so. I think the only thing he was missing was the red scarf, you
Oh,
know?
well, there was a lot of things that were missing, but it's the between the charm and the I don't know about the cigarette smoking, but that could have worked with Negan.
Yeah,
But,
I think so.
same feels.
Yeah. No, Charlie to me, you could see through him immediately. You knew immediately that this guy was going to be an antagonist. And the problem that I had, and I hate to start off an opinion with the problem that I had, but the problem that I had was the fact that it was so fast. It was taken care of so quickly
Yeah, it
that
was.
there was no time to hate this guy at all. And
Yeah.
if you're talking about, I mean, there's all these time jumps in this show that are also annoying. You get a 20-year time jump, you get a 50-year time jump. It's like, okay, so
At the end.
you only have one mountain lion attack and you have one bad guy.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, 2 technically, but yeah. It's a
But
savior problem.
right, the yeah. So I mean,
Silas.
yeah. So I don't know. I have or had high hopes for this show. I don't know if they'll go to a season 2 or if they've just taken care of everything
That's
in
it.
that last episode last night. But there was no time, like the first episode you had a chance to really get to know Ish,
Mm,
Right.
and build a relationship with him, learn what happened to his parents, all that kind of stuff. And then when he meets his wife, and again, I'm terrible with names, but he
Emma.
gets to
Yeah.
meet, right. And and then it's like so many things happen that you
The
don't
quick
have a
years.
chance to grab on to anything with substance, and that was difficult.
Right. Right.
So
so,
Would it
okay. Well, I was gonna say, so it may have been. So one, the book is written that way, so that's where they got that from. The like rapid time jumping happens in the book, but I watched the 4th episode and did not watch the 5th right away, even though it had already dropped. And I waited
mhm.
until today to watch both the 5th
Oh.
and 6th.
Oh, okay.
So I had that
Oh.
time in between, and I have to say, it gave me enough time that it felt okay that they took him out right away.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was in the weird double episode release, because again, there's some weird marketing stuff with this. Like, why was it not advertised as a mini series if this is all there is?
Right.
That's
Right.
a
Right.
mistake. That's a
Because
mistake on their end.
that's the question. That's the question I wanted to ask Carol. Is that knowing that it's a mini series, does that change the way you feel about all the time jumps and getting to know characters so much?
No, not really. I think that there
Okay.
could have been, oh, good news. Snake is gone. Yay. Um,
Woo.
okay. Whew. No, I think that there were some scenes in the show that that were that didn't really need to happen, that they could have used the time better by either developing other characters or allowing other. I'm sorry, if the earth is completely wiped out but less than 10% of the population, some stuff's going to go down.
That's our Walking Dead brain, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because
I don't,
and it's present in the show.
yeah, but one mountain lion.
Yeah, and
So there should have been more creatures.
It should
Dave,
have been a lot more.
yes, and I was saying, like, in the book, what I was telling Dave was that the book almost becomes like a companion piece to this series. Instead of fighting against it, it almost works really well with it. If you know more about what happens kind of in between some of those time jumps, it kind of fills some of the gaps for you. And
Mhm.
there are years that are crazy. Ish battles ants for like weeks. Ants just start showing up out of nowhere and they're trying to get into everything. And all of a sudden, just like that, they're all gone. And
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know what happened.
The rats were the same way.
Same thing with the rats. Then it happens with cows. Then it happens with grasshoppers. Then it happens with, I think there's coyotes.
See?
Or maybe it's cougars. I can't remember. But because of the cows, the cougars ate really well. And then all of a sudden the cows are gone. And so now the cougars are desperate and trying to hunt for, and so they're hunting people.
Right.
Same thing happens with
Mm.
dogs. Like even dogs that were domesticated at the beginning, like they're kind of hunting him. And it's not Lucky in the book. It's a female beagle named Princess. But the dogs are like kind of trying to come after Ish and Princess to get her because they're desperate to eat. And then Ish like uncovers later when the rats come that they actually were cornering dogs and like killing dogs. And so like
Right.
that's why Princess wasn't allowed to go outside.
Yeah.
And so stuff like all of this stuff comes up. So you get like all of these really cool pieces of like kind of the cyclical aspect of nature trying to work itself out. And so it keeps happening. And at one point, like everyone's really freaked out because the cows like overgrazed. And so then there's nothing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're, and you know, the group is like really starting to panic. Like, what are we going to do about food? There's nothing. And the cows trampled their garden, broke into it and trampled it. They didn't even eat any
this
of it.
is
They
why I
just
don't bring the
trampled
cows
it.
home. See,
Right.
This is why. Yeah. But anyway, so you got
I
like
keep
a lot.
telling you.
You got a lot more of that, like the natural stuff occurring, which is cool. So I think if you take those two pieces and put them together, it's great. Honestly, up to the last episode, I was like, maybe we are going to get a second season. Maybe they will extend it and continue to tell the story. And then they did the massive time jump, and I'm like, well, that answers that, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was always going to be this way, I guess. And no, to your point, Carol, I think because that was the main. Here's the thing, I did knowing that it's a miniseries, knowing that it's should be viewed a certain way, set some expectations in my mind, and I only found out after the third episode that it was meant to be only 6 episodes. Period. That's it. End of story. Goodbye series. This is just a moment in time that you should pay attention. So I see it more as like a 6-act movie in a sense. And so having that in my mind, it actually made me enjoy the series a lot more and its specialness of what it's trying to convey and all the realistic things that happen throughout this series in a sense really helped me appreciate it. Oh, this is just like life, except in what the thing that we all love, extraordinary circumstances.
Right.
And so, but to your point though, I agree that there could be things that actually make it seem as though, oh, there's always something that would have been
Because there
helpful.
would be.
Right.
There would
Right.
always-
Exactly.
You don't
Yeah.
go 20 years and not experience some sort of traumatic experience that's life changing. That's just not
Right.
realistic.
The ups and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't know that it was a mini series until yesterday. I had no
Yeah.
clue.
So
I know.
so that's why I was thinking to myself that, and I don't know the answer. I'll be very honest with you, but I was thinking, oh, could this have worked better as just a movie?
Probably.
Right.
I think
Where you can,
Maybe. I feel like even if it had been 10 episodes instead of 6, that would have given them a little more room to kind of play with.
Right. And
I don't
think if
know.
you
so
did
Shauna says goodnight and Dawn says hi. Dawn Barker.
Oh, good night and hi.
Just wanted to say that. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Good night, Shauna. And hello, Dawn.
That's my cohort right there.
So sorry,
No, that's.
movie.
I think that if they did it as a movie, then obviously we would have had more excitement because they would have had to have had more excitement in order to be able to be built as a movie. If they
Mm.
had extended it to 10 episodes, then it would have allowed for those time jumps not to be so drastic, and we would have been able to see more um, of their plight.
Hmm. I do have to say, like, in terms of what I've read so far, there wasn't a lot to play with for the ancillary characters. They truly are written as kind of like blank slates in the
They're just
background.
there.
They're
They're
just
Yeah.
there.
NPCs. They're NPCs.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, in a way.
Truly. Like, Evie is there and she doesn't talk and they can't decipher why. And she does
Right.
start to use some words, but she's never normal, is what he says. And
Yeah.
like that's it. That's all you get about Evie. So you're just left with like, oh, okay. So in terms of that, in comparison, like the show did a really good job of kind of giving them more, like
Uh-huh.
Jean struggling with alcoholism and ultimately making the decision to stop drinking for her a child who's still alive. Kind
I
of the
love that.
opposite of what Ish does,
Yeah.
because Ish is like, I'm broken and my other kids don't exist, and I'm burning
Yeah.
everything down. And Gina's like,
I'm gonna go
I
destroy
this one's for
library.
you. This one is for my daughter who's still here. So I have to
Right. Put
keep
it
living.
down.
Yeah.
What a great, just the love that filmic part of her overpouring the glass, the cup burneth over thing, right? For her
Mm.
other daughter, which I forget her name now,
I don't
is
remember.
fine. But that the sound of the drip, drip, drip
Mhm.
on the actual nightstand was so powerful in a weird way.
Yeah.
It just hung there. And there were a lot of scenes like that in this show that
Mhm.
weren't B-roll of the Acropolis or in
Right.
the intro sequence, but like subtle little things that happen throughout the episode. And even like, okay, and this happens a lot in shows, but when they're taking Joey to the cowboy bath, right? The natural rainwater bath, right? It's the ADR, the dubbed in VO, right? The voiceovers, right? Because they're not actually saying that as the scenes are progressing and switching over. It's in a voice studio. But I liked it because it's as though he's speaking directly into his ear.
Yeah.
I need to borrow your faith. And
Mm.
God is there for there was something so cool about that. How, yes, it could have just been left out and it could have just shown him dropping him into the bath, but having that in such an intimate sort of, it's as though they're speaking directly into your ears.
Mhm.
Things like that make this show as cool as it is. And what you said about the prose in the book, it makes me feel that proseness of the
Yeah,
book
there's
in a
something.
way.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to create like a visual equal to the way that it's written. Kind of
Hey,
this,
Kayla.
kind of this heavy, like, I don't know, kind of these long strings of words and this kind of poetry to it. They're trying to give that a visualization, which is hard. And
Mhm.
I will say visually the show is stunning
Yes.
the whole way through.
Mhm. Yeah, they did a great job on the long shots, of the different cities and stuff, and how it kind of progressed and was overgrown. I do have to agree with you, David, on that last scene with the shot glass on the dresser, and the
Mm.
camera just shows her walking out of the room, and you see the shot glass left on the dresser. And at first you're wondering what happened. Did she take the shot? Did she take that second shot? That's in my brain it's like, wow, that's stiff alcohol just to be doing two shots right after another. But then the
Like she
camera.
did before.
Yeah, right. But then you see the shot sitting there, and not only is there liquor on the dresser, but the shot glass is completely full,
Hmm.
not a
Right.
drop taken out of it.
Right.
And it's a
Right.
beautiful
Exactly.
scene, and it's a short scene, and then if you blink you miss it, but it speaks volumes about her character. It's beautiful. It is one of my favorite
And where
scenes.
she's at.
Yeah, what she's done, because she's
What's
like, you know I loved that scene.
and Bridget, you brought up a really good point about that scene, is that this happens before Joey passes,
Hmm.
and it's such a prepper for what Ish has to go through and how. But what I like about it the most is that we handle grief differently.
Yeah.
And because
Yeah,
of
of course.
different faiths and different who we are as people, Ish being alone, an only child, first of all, and being alone and wanting to be alone. And so he kind of like, oh, the thing that I felt the most about Joey's death was more like the idea that why did I even bother? He spray paints over Emma's message that, oh, we're here in San Lupo Drive, whatever. That feeling of I bothered to do this. I gave my heart. I took a chance on people, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
That feeling that like, and this is what I get. You know, I'm supposed to be rewarded for this. You know, I'm supposed to feel, but you know, you can't escape. You
No.
can't escape that life, right? You can't escape life. It comes in whether you like it or not. It leaves whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And there's just something so just real and raw, and how, and it, each character in their own way, like Gene, can appeal to somebody in a different way in how they handle that grief.
Mhm.
And it there's something so great about being able to see a part of yourself in that, even in such a small thing, right? In such a small series, right?
Yeah.
And also, hi, and Angelina, or Angelia, sorry.
That's
Oh,
my
your sister?
that's my daughter.
Daughter?
That's
Okay.
your daughter. So that's my
It's your sister.
mom.
It's your sister.
My sister. My
Your
younger
sisters, right?
Right, yeah. We're so-
Oh, okay.
Wow. Nice, Dave. Very subtle.
Good save, Dave. Yeah, no, I liked the fact that they showed Ish's his kind of his anger. They didn't really say that it was a higher power, but it's a lot like how some of us who believe in a higher power would react when things drastically happen to us after we've tried so hard to do everything right.
Mm.
You know, and then when
Yeah,
he's leaving
yeah.
the compound and people are trying to stop him, and he's still just, he just still
Oh,
keeps
yeah.
going, that was beautiful because his family and his friends, they were trying to come to help him, and he just didn't want to have nothing to do with it. And then at the end of the episode, it's a complete 180 turnaround, where he just is like, I am not your teacher anymore. You're going to learn from out there, and let's go, out into the world and see what we can find, kind of thing. And, the people on the CB and stuff like that, that he goes ahead and reaches out and does all of that. So it's a 180-degree turnaround for him from that scene when he's trying to leave the compound.
One
It
I
was
love.
no,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carol.
it's okay.
I love that part because it's like, had he not come to that point, he would not probably have ever been capable of going through Joey's things and then finding the roadmap for the radio that then led to the new civilization that they would end up building.
Ugh.
And so that's why he says,
Yeah.
like, he kind of comes to that. I don't think this happened by accident, because it really did seem to play out in the way that it was laid out. Everything was laid out for you. It had to happen in exactly this way so that you would end up where you were meant to end up.
Right.
Yeah, and let me add a little to the actual that part where he finds the radio antenna plans, or the broadcast antenna plans, which is really smart too, because let me just touch on this, how that antenna was designed in such a way that it's one of those worldwide broadcast antennas, because it's panning over the Parthenon and all these different areas of the world, which I
like,
love.
what's happening?
I have questions about that. I'm like, how is that antenna reaching
So
that
this kid's a
far?
smart kid. What can I say? Also, consider this fact, and this is something that I know for a fact, is that when you think about it, and why was it in, I think it was about 20 years from prior to now, in 2020, sorry, 2004, what they did with television broadcasts was they eliminated the whole television broadcast frequency for the most part. It's all digital now. It's a different type
we
of frequency.
all had to go get our digital
remember that?
converter boxes.
HD antennas or set-top boxes, cable subscriptions, whatever it was. This is
Yes.
when internet wasn't as ubiquitous and fast as it was now. But the whole idea of that was to eliminate that frequency so that we'd have more bandwidth, literal radio bands, for us to do high-speed data over the air, right? Think about a world that has none of that. None
Right.
of that. So your broadcast can go so much further. And a lot of that is based on solar radiation. And with less chemicals in the sky, your broadcast can reach basically through the entire planet and beyond, if you think about it. So
Yeah.
all of this makes sense. Joey Jojo was a smart little kid who passed tragically, but I wanted to touch on this part because I love making you people cry.
Shut up, T.
This line, because he's opening the book, the journal that Ish doesn't use, and he reads this one line, and this is what really got me, because let me prepend by saying this. I could see a world in which somebody who sees Joey dies can not feel anything. I get it. I get it. You don't get that much time to see how special these kids are, the relationship between them and the other characters, the relationship between them and you. I could see that. But what you can't deny is that we got to know Ish, his relationship with that kid, and then this line, when I get this built, I hope he's proud of me. And I
Yeah.
hope he lets us try to find ... the others. Oh,
Yeah.
because he doesn't want that. He knows and Ish goes, proud doesn't even get halfway there.
Yeah.
It's you and me, and it's just such a special line because it says everything that we got to see, like you said about Ish. And does he have faith? But he does have faith. Come on. But does he have faith? And all the stuff that he put on Joey, all of it, and that having that death be so tragic. It's like, oh, but if I die, I can't fulfill the promises my dad put on me. You know, it's so bad. But then you read that and you're like, there's a sweet finish
Uh-huh.
to it. Is that I want to make it, like every kid, I want to make my dad proud. And I hope that even though this is the thing that he wouldn't want, that he's still proud of me. Right. Like, oh, he doesn't want more people in his Garden of Eden. But like, I hope he'll forgive me for laying out this plan to find more people.
Right.
And like, you sweet little kid thinking about me long after you're dead, but he doesn't know he's going to be dead because there's that line about Heather and Rafe and all that stuff. But anyway, it got me. It got me because it took the person who might not care about Joey's death and makes it so that, oh, you have to care now.
Yes.
You just can't not care about this part because that's everybody. Everybody who, like, right, Angelia, right? You care about what your mom thinks. You want her to be proud of you.
I think it appeals
See,
to
real
those.
life example. I'm trying to make you cry.
That's right. I think you're correct in that, David, because especially since I mean we were all kids at one point, and you know you want your parents to be proud of you, and then those of us who have kids, you know, we see Ish's side as well, and it appeals to not only the people who feel that, you know, oh yeah, I remember wanting to make my parents proud. It also appeals to those of us who've had children. And I, you know, if you heard that line and read those words while you were watching it and you didn't get a little choked up, I'd be surprised because
You
I
obviously hate your parents.
you obviously hate your parents.
You have no friends. You hate your parents. Why are you even watching us right now?
It's terrible.
You're a monster. You're a monster. Just leave, right?
Probably didn't even care when Carl died, did you?
That's a different story. It's terrible. I feel ashamed. Just kidding. Anyway, I feel like we should talk about Charlie and the whole Silas thing a little bit more, though. But touching, I wanted to hit on what you said about it being too fast, and it's the exact reverse problem of the whole All Out War in Negan, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
people thought All Out War went way too long.
Well,
Meanwhile, this was way too short.
Yeah.
that was the network though saying, "Hey,
That's
people
Scott Gimple,
complained.
technically.
They complained about the governor arc. It went too fast.
Mhm.
They said it was over too quickly.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you really got to stretch this savior's arc out." And then you're like, "Why are we 5 episodes deep into the same fight?
Yeah.
We just please end this now." Yeah, but I have to say, knowing what he did to Evie
Yes.
the whole time, I'm like, yeah, get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was ready.
Well, see, isn't that a feature of the Walking Dead people, the fandom, right? Because you're like, yeah, just there's no way. There's no way.
Well,
He's gonna die. Let's see how quickly they get to this answer.
I don't remember what it's from, but there's the quote, "Some people just need killing."
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
that's immediately
yeah.
what I thought of when I saw Charlie walk out of Evie's little shed house.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
was like, some people just need killing, which is like horrible. And we're like, this is why nobody's on our TikTok, because I'm saying the K word over and over again.
Kill, kill, kill. Kill, 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 kill.
The
Pew pew.
algorithm.
It's gun.
The
It's a
algorithm.
gun.
It's
Everybody, it's a
suppressing us.
gun.
It's
Like I care
suppressing
about
us.
TikTok and its algorithm.
But
I'm not gonna say the S word though. SUICIDE.
No.
I have
no.
limits. Anyway,
Right.
sorry.
No. But that's what I kept popping back to, was like, this guy has to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something that I should fill in here a little bit is typically I'm the person who says, but maybe all life is precious, everyone, right? All life is precious, Morgan Jones.
Yes.
I'm a
yes.
huge believer in all life is precious. So I was conscious of that. But my brain went immediately to, oh, this guy got to go. He got to go now,
Well, because it's like,
which I don't trust.
It's just
I don't
such
trust.
an unforgivable thing. She's so innocent, so vulnerable, and also young. And it's just, it brings it out in us, like, to be like, no, that guy's got to go. He's got to be done.
And then what he says, by the way, it happens so fast. Remember what he says to Ish? He goes, your token R word?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, it
Oh.
was all the little prodding things he said afterwards. So if you didn't, I mean, you would hate him anyway for the act of it. But all the little jabs as he walking away is like, you were the worst. You were literally the worst. But
Yeah.
it was done that way because in the episode previous, and Carol, I had said this, like, I struggled with Charlie at the beginning because I knew that Ish was overly suspicious. I felt off. It felt off. And his interaction with Jean is so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Where he like wants her to drink and is being so weird about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I felt that.
But at the same time, I was like, well, is this guy just kind of a creep? Like Emma even says that. He is a man. Because he's looking at Evie the way he is, and Ish doesn't like that. So part of me was like, well, I don't know. But I think that's why. That's why it's like, so everybody in the audience is all on the same page. We're all like, this guy sucks.
Well, and I say that.
Well, they made it.
It happened so fast. And the problem that I had was that it happened so fast. I would have liked to have seen some more
dragging out,
cringy behavior, instead of just, because they went from meeting them to him eyeballing Evie to him.
Yeah.
And then
wait.
I don't disagree. I think that he should have been ended immediately after that, because there is no coming back from that. There's no anything. You cannot come back from something like that. That is the worst of the worst. But it was,
there's no Rick saying to the governor, we get to come back. We get to come back. We all get to come back. No, Charlie doesn't get to come back.
No.
I have to say,
we're not too far gone.
No, but I would have liked to have seen
he's too far gone.
More evil, even if it was just smaller evil acts. I would have liked to have seen more evil acts from him leading up to that.
You know what would have been great? Carol, would have been if we had gotten to see the way that he behaved in the previous communities that they overtook.
Yeah.
That would have been so good. If we had gotten like a flashback, because then it wouldn't directly affected our characters yet, but it would have painted the picture that you needed it to paint to sell that whole story. That would have been great.
Yeah.
I think so. There are a couple things I want to say about that. Is that something that Corey says about who these people are? He was the guy who went to every community, and of the people that didn't die in their wake, there was like, okay, They kill the leaders. He kills the alpha of each of these communities and goes, "Hey, you're with me now,
Yeah.
or you're dead." Right? But it's sort of like a show don't tell, because he kind of says it. He's like, "Oh, all of us, all these people behind Charlie, yeah, they're all pickups from
Mhm.
different communities they've decimated, all of us."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's how he bends them to their will. It's everybody that said, "Well, I don't want to die.
Right.
I've worked so hard up to this point to not despair and live this however many years." Was it year 14 or no, year
Yeah, it's
17, right? I think about year 17, I think it was,
17, I
right?
think. 16 or 17. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
around there.
So, and that's when he comes in. So, okay. So there's that part. But then being a man, there are things that he does that I don't think women can easily pick up. It's the right from the start, the having Ish emasculated while trying to lift the drill bit
Oh,
thing
no, I
into
know.
the
No, I
slot.
totally.
But
Yeah, I picked up on that.
here's the thing, having those scenes and having his sons see their feeble father and all that stuff, you still kind of you're like, this isn't so bad. He's just being a guy, blah, blah, blah. But then when you find out the ending, you look back and you see what he was trying to do. It's that subtle way of kind of digging in, like digging
Mhm.
his fingernails into his community in his own way, in a way that they've never experienced before. But throughout the entire time, you're like Emma, and you're like, it's people. There's only so many left, right? It's like
Mm.
you got to give them a chance. It's like that a-hole cousin that you have. Well, we're family. I have to accept him because his family's all you have sometimes. And sorry, I'm thinking of somebody very specific right now.
Clearly. Dave was
But
transported
right,
somewhere else.
Moment, Dave.
you can't kill him. I mean,
I have a question about
I should
the
say his name now.
Joe, please don't. Please don't. Please do not. I have a question about the
Also, kill and
visuals.
guns.
Right.
Sorry.
Stop. The visuals that we got after that. So once they've Charlie and they've taken care of him in whatever way that they did.
Yeah.
Well, he
We
took care of him.
see
Oh, you're saying the
that
body.
pan to the water where you're like seeing the blood in the water. And okay, is that to insinuate that that's where they dropped him, or is that supposed to be visual storytelling of like this also happens in the wild because we cannot allow there to be a predator in our midst?
Yes.
Which is it?
Because until you said that, I was like, oh, because I just assumed they threw him into the bay.
I did too at
But
first, but
you're
then I was
right.
like, maybe it was just a visual.
Because it could be because of the big imagery of that episode. I think it was that episode was predators, right?
Yeah.
The near the end of that title sequence is all the shark attacks and the great white and the it's like, but you're right, that blood in the water, there's sharks, and sometimes sharks even bite it. When enough sea creatures gang up against it, I guess. Anyway, so
Dolphins? I don't know.
yes, it doesn't even matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't even matter.
Okay.
Charlie could be buried in their garden which is what I thought actually
I
initially,
kind of felt like
even
that's what had happened.
because of the fake digging of the hoe, because they obviously were just kind of trying to keep appearance, which is so funny to me. But in this weird moment, like, what is he doing? That's not he's not really tilling. Also, it's a little early for that. Come on, bro.
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, no, that was a great observation. I just assumed they threw him into the bay, and I also think there's another bit of irony to it because it's kind of like they were looking for water
Yeah.
this whole time, and they threw him in the water. So the thing. Well, you got it. We got the water.
I did like that part of Ish's kind of breakdown that he has when he's cleaning. It was very
Yeah.
Macbeth, the whole thing, but just the
I
whole,
went into that earlier, but I'll let you have it.
yeah, just a very Macbeth aspect. But the mention of I'm cleaning this with the very water that he provided us.
Yeah. It was very ironic.
Mm,
It
yeah.
I have to say, I don't, and the more we're talking about it, like I started off so cold on the show, and now I'm like, okay, did it run too fast? Sure, definitely.
Mhm.
But I did really like
Yeah,
a lot of
without a
it. I
doubt.
really liked a lot of it.
I did
You know
like
what?
that they brought
Go ahead.
in the whole library, the need for education, that
Mm,
whole thing. I thought that the library was a very poignant location throughout this show. That they were constantly, if they didn't have the answer, they knew where to find it.
yeah.
I loved that.
Something we've always invariably said about these apocalypse shows. It's like there's no internet, but ladies and gentlemen, you got to get the info from somewhere,
Yeah,
right? All the
encyclopedia.
time. Yeah, you can't rely on Eugene all the time. But yeah, but to your point, to almost counterpoint, Carol, is that yes, that's important. Yes, it's great to have all this info, but he's ready to burn it down because that was. It's
Mhm,
like I don't believe in anything anymore. This did not save me. And you get pieces of that when Heather was born, right?
mhm.
I could learn about all of this, and yet when you're there, I'm still an emotional human being that has a panic attack and doesn't know what to do with
Right.
all the information that's readily available up here. It's different when you're up close. It's different when you're actually there.
Mhm.
When you're faced with the prospect of trying to kill, of having to kill someone,
Right.
and then you get the sense. I think I no, I'm not going to go there yet. But I love the idea of this failed me. This thing that I believed in all my life that my parents told me I should be doing about education and being better than them on the education front,
Mhm.
and all these things I was taught to believe and taught to put on my kids and taught to put, or at least Joey, for him to make him better than I'm supposed to be, just like my parents said about me. I'm ready to burn it all down. What was all that for? What was all of this? Having the kids, learning all the things. My life is a sham.
That's why I
It's
loved
such
Emma's
a
response.
burn it all down, Bridget, right? Burn it all
Well,
down.
yeah, I say that all the time. But I loved that. I love that Emma was like, "Go ahead. Go ahead. So what good
I've
is it
always said that,
anyway?"
Emma.
Amen. Yes, burn it down. But
And
I
A
did love
women
that.
too.
I did shut up, Dave.
They have
I
to have
did
followers.
I hate you. I just hate you. I it's like you're ham-fisted, Dave. You are. You're a
I
ham.
am. I am such a ham. For a Jew, I'm quite the ham. Oink oink, mother effer. Yeah.
I,
Awkward.
yeah,
But for me,
Sorry,
I
I
love I
totally
love that.
disrupted your track of thought.
No, it's okay. I really enjoyed that she was like, "You okay, great. Yeah, go ahead." Like it's not worth the same thing that you think it's worth. Like, is it cool to have that information? Sure. But are you single-handedly trying to retain all
Bring it
of
all back.
civilization? That is insane. It's wild pressure. And we kind of get a glimpse into the pressure that he's putting on himself when he's trying to do the blood draw for Joey. And Heather is like, that's not your job.
yeah.
When he's like, I have
I
to
wanted to
save
get into that.
everyone. It's not your job.
You know,
Bro, it's literally not your job.
so what's great about that scene is completely understanding the impulse,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
That's my job as a parent, is to keep you alive
Well,
and safe and maybe even to save the world.
my whole thought was you could just like try it though.
Yeah.
Like, you might as well
Yes.
just like he's
Which is what
already
he
got
said.
everything there. Like, just give it a shot. Don't just give up.
I
Like,
mean,
just
just keep
do
going.
it. Just go ahead and
Just
do it.
go ahead. Yeah, just come on. Who's it gonna hurt? No, Dad, that's not your job. Your job is to be there for your dying kid. Heather, shut the hell up.
I'll be
I'm
there
kidding.
for him as I'm giving him blood. Like, it's fine.
Yeah,
Just you might as well
he's
just
gonna
give it
be
a
right
shot.
next to me.
That's in my head. I was like, just try it anyway. Just
Yeah.
I get the
Right.
point. Good point. Just like give it a
We
shot.
all
though.
turned into Charity. We all turned into Charity that moment. I can't get behind people that just give up. About Anne and Martin in the beginning. This is her. That was
Yeah.
her. She's like, I quit the show. These people suck.
She was so
Can't,
over it.
I can't believe there are people.
Immediately.
Yes, there are people out there in the world, but I'm not gonna watch them. Not me.
Not me.
So that's the thing. I love that impulse, though. I love that that is a real impulse that you want to do everything you can for your kid, even even if it's unreasonable, you do it anyway. Blah blah blah. But yeah, I do get the other side of that though, because well, haven't you done enough, Dad?
Well, and you guys
Because
talked
it's
about.
not.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go
You
ahead.
guys talked about spirituality and everything with Ish, and how he has a belief system. And the thing that I kind of picked up on the whole library thing and the books and stuff like that is that Ish was a very educated man before everything happened. And my thinking is that it's kind of learning in those books, and the information in those books were also a form of religion for Ish.
Mm. That's what he's having a crisis of faith when Joey dies because his religion is
Because
knowledge.
information
Has
is
failed him.
yeah, his belief
Yeah.
is knowledge, and he does not have the knowledge and can't find the knowledge to fix the problem.
Mm.
And I think that that's another way that he feels like he's been let down after working so hard and being so knowledgeable and still not having the things that he needs, the information that he needs to fix his son.
Yeah, yeah, and excuse me. And the idea that, which is why I'm sympathetic to Heather in that moment, because it's like, haven't you done enough, Dad? You put everything on this kid.
Yeah.
You wanted him to be exactly like your parents wanted you to be, and
Hmm.
we got to this point, and you're putting too much pressure on this. It's like
Right.
some things are out of your control. Some things don't have the answer, like this
Mhm.
virus, like a
Mhm.
lot of things. And it's not to say that it can't be explained. It can be explained, but what is that? What good does that do you?
Right.
What to understand the situation you're currently in right now? Your son is dying. Just be there for him. So I get that too,
Hmm.
and I love how that scene plays out because it right. You could just try it, Bridget. You're right. You could just try it. It doesn't hurt. You're sitting there behind the TV screen. You don't remember that
Yeah,
all
I'm
this time he's
armchair
been
quarterbacking. Yeah.
we all do it. We all do it. I catch myself sometimes. You're like, damn it, Bridget turned into me when I say this stuff. Or some invariably somebody says something that I would normally say. I'd be like, oh, you got me. You got me. And yeah, we're all armchair apocalypse knowledge persons. We're like, oh, we think we know everything. We think
Well,
we know what. Oh, you should have done that. Yum, 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 yum. You should have done that. Yum, 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 yum. As your TV dinner, whatnot. I just ordered DoorDash. I got the information from the internet that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, what's the meaning of this song? I don't know. I don't have internet.
well, look,
So,
I studied for 12 years about the zombie apocalypse. I think that those of us who have are pretty good at being armchair
Yeah.
warriors, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah.
right, but you're all ishes. You have the knowledge, but when it comes down to it, oh, Charlie is scary, and I don't think I want to
Well,
kill him because I don't want to kill a person. I don't
You're
want.
right. You're
I want
right.
that blood on my hands. Right? Isn't that scary? See,
hard pass.
Bridget would turn into an absolute monster.
It might
She'd be the
happen.
worst of us.
No, I
That's
would
not
be
true.
the
Maybe.
Rachel would be
crier.
the worst of
I'd
us.
be in the corner in the fetal position just crying. I would be like, somebody take out the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
You missed. Yeah, you missed the part where I talked about how I ran over a cow and I had an existential religious crisis. What is it? I'm holding myself. I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What happened? Why? I killed a living being, a particularly large one.
Happy thoughts.
Am I a bad
I
person?
can't handle
Right?
it. I can't.
I'm
It's such a
ish.
weird. It's such
I'm
a
ish in
weird
that moment.
story, Dave. It's such a weird
I'm
story.
scrubbing the undercarriage of the car. I'm like, oh, it won't. The guts won't wipe. They didn't wipe away for a week at least. By the way,
Oh, I'm
just so you know.
sure.
Just
Blood is
the
still in the
car on a.
rail.
Oh my god, it's still September. It's still hot in Chicago.
Ugh.
It's like Smelled like barbecue for a
Why do
week
I want
at
a
least.
burger all of a sudden?
True, 100% certain, and I felt terrible about it the entire time.
You cried while
I'm
you ate
so
that
hungry
burger.
because of this.
Cried.
You start crying as you go through the drive-through of a Sonic or something. It's like,
I'm
you
so
look at the
sorry.
burger in your hand. Was this you? Was this you? I'll eat this in your honor.
You take out a pickle and
I'm
drop
sorry.
it in homage to the cow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw it over your shoulder like salt.
Yeah.
Sesame seeds flying everywhere. Anyway.
I love it.
This was for you,
Yeah.
Bertha.
Yeah. That feeling passed. That existential crisis passed very quickly. Anyway.
Right.
Well, like all things, don't they? I don't know. Do we have much juice left in the juice
I was gonna
box
say I've been
for anything
thoroughly
else?
enjoying this, but I probably have to go soon.
Yeah. The
But this
10
has been
o'clock
very
mark
fun.
has passed.
I'm very appreciative that you came on, Carol.
Oh, thank you guys for
you.
inviting me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We might even do a wrap up of what Bridget found out in the books in companion
Because
to
I'm not
the
done.
shows.
I am 5 hours in. I still have 7 hours remaining of the book. And I already got to Joey's death.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
there's a lot
which I didn't
more
think was in
there.
the book.
Well, I listen to audiobooks.
Wow.
Is it on audio, you said? You listening to
It's
it
on Audible.
Is it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say the narrator is a little
Hey, Destiny.
not super engaging.
Yeah.
And he
Like a
mispronounces
J.R.R.
words,
Tolkien.
which is bothersome to
Oh,
me.
does he really?
Yeah, it's not Evie, it's Evie, he says. I'm like, that's not right.
No, like
Sorry.
like
sir,
stop.
no.
That's
No.
not right.
please,
But
you're saying
I
it
will
wrong.
say the Audible version was released in 2020, and there is a super interesting foreword that I went into in one of our previous episodes that kind of talks about like the inspiration for Ish's character, where it may have come from, and a lot about George R. Stewart, kind of how ahead of his time he was in terms of like literacy, like literary themes and narration styles.
Okay.
So it's a really, really interesting listen if you want.
It was
I'll have to look it up.
it was hipster
Yeah.
sci-fi. It was sci-fi before sci-fi was sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was considered, so back in the day, this would have been considered it would have been called an after the fall novel. Because that was this specific style of science fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we
It
reached
was really interesting.
Oh.
Sorry. And also, hi, Destiny.
No, it's okay.
I love you. Love you so much.
Yes.
I'm glad you're here.
Destiny Larimore, Facebook.
Oh, that's my baby.
Yeah, see?
She's a good girl.
We all know and love Destiny.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
We do.
I stand by that.
Yeah.
That's actually what the podcast is about now.
It's about
just
Destiny.
Loving Destiny.
Just, yeah.
It's a double-edged double entendre. So there you go. It's about our destiny and also our destiny.
Our destiny, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me on and supporting the girls on Relishing the Dead. You guys are awesome, and we really totally appreciate you guys and everything.
Yeah, we love you guys.
We always wish we can be there for you guys, and so we are always endeavoring to try.
And you have.
So,
We appreciate
well,
it.
we love you, and we love all of you out there. And if you like what you've heard, head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Leave us 5 stars and a sunset emoji. It's all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like, tell us what we might have missed with 3 episodes on the table. We missed a lot of things. But you know what? We'll take your complaints. We'll post them on the internet. We'll complain about them in the next episode mockingly. And if you really like what you've heard, head on over to either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead and just follow us. It's free. And it's the only way you'll get our recording schedules when we do not live streams. And we highly encourage you to attend our not live streams because they're objectively more off the rails because we know we're not live and we'll say things that will never, ever make an episode because we say things like guns and murder and suicide and death.
Stop.
And sometimes we say the R word, and sometimes we say the other R word, and sometimes we say the other R word.
I don't know what any of those
But-
words are. Don't say them.
Count of all the R words.
Okay, so one's a
No.
4-letter word.
No.
One,
No.
one
no,
Char-
no,
Charlie says in the second episode.
No.
But when you follow us, you'll get a recording schedules, you'll get notifications when our recording schedules are updated, and you'll get the inside track. It's all free to follow Patreon or Ko-fi to get those notifications. Not everything's behind a paywall, but if you happen to tip us on Ko-fi, you'll get 30 days of access to our unedited recording sessions, my crazy ass notes, of which I cannot wait to post these 3 episode notes because it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. I'm losing my mind as you scroll down because there's so many things that I don't get, first of all. And second of all, you have to understand, I did 2 episodes last night. I did the last episode right after we got on here. It's just, I'm trying to get through it really fast
Right
in
before
my own
we
way.
got on here.
Right before I got on it, right.
He's doing the
So,
notes
yes.
right now.
Right.
Right now, I'm actually still writing them. So, and done. And so when you tip us, you'll get 30 days access to that, the unedited episode recordings. When you join a membership tier on either Patreon or Ko-fi, you'll have them in perpetuity. When you tip, you also get Discord access. When you join a membership tier, you get more Discord access. And if you happen to join the Whisperers, Survivors, or Great M tier, you'll get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up. And if you happen to join the Survivors and Great M tier, the Greatest Dish tier, you will be able to join us on screen with us, breaking down these episodes alongside us, if you so choose. You don't have to. Clearly, some people who have taken up the perk have not really done that, and that's okay. We're not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do, but we do appreciate your support. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by
Bridget.
Not and Bridget.
You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. And we're also joined by special guest.
I'm Carol Jameson, and you can find me on Relishing the Dead podcast live on Facebook.
Mostly, and you should subscribe to the YouTube channel because it really does help them out.
Yeah.
I think it's Relish the Dead.
Relish the Dead.
At Relish the Dead on YouTube, I think it is.
Yes, sir. Oh, and we're also on IMDb too, so check us out.
Whoa.
It's something that I've been meaning to do and have been slacking off, by the way.
Ooh, I'm very impressed.
I was able to show Greg
Aliza.
Nicotero the fact that we had.
Wait, say that again?
I said I was able to show Greg Nicotero that we were on IMDb, and as I'm scrolling with our guests, he noticed that Michael Satrazemis was one of our guests, and he was like, "You got Michael Satrazemis?"
You know what?
You got to
I
do it.
redeemed myself because
Dave, you got to
because
do it.
I did that with Podchaser. So we were on Podchaser. I put my credits in there and I put all the guests that we had. But so I did okay.
No,
I did all
it's
right.
not the same.
I'm in a good
not
place.
the same. Not the
Ah,
same.
damn
You're the
it. All
worst.
right, fine.
Just do it. Just do it.
You know,
Dave.
Aliza berates me every chance she gets. Aliza from Relishing the Dead. She goes, "Did you join IMDb Pro? Do you have an IMDb profile?" I don't even have a Wikipedia profile, Aliza. God, stop. I feel ashamed of myself every time I talk to you, but I still love you.
I love
Flog
it.
myself with a stick, a
Keep
switch.
berating him. Keep doing it. I love it.
I am
It's great.
unclean.
I love it.
Unclean.
I invite it. In fact, I won't ever do it, so I keep getting berated. It's a joy. Anyway.
No, I'll do it. It's fine.
Say-
I'll do it.
It's really easy. Bridget.
Oh yeah, Bridget will do it in your
Yeah.
stead when you're
I'll do
not
it.
there, Aliza. Anyway, so
Oh
Take
no,
care,
I
everybody.
meant I would do
I-
the IMDb, not just berate you. I will berate you, but
oh
I'll
no,
also
don't do the
that.
IMDb. I like the berating. Never. We'll
Happy-
never be on IMDb.
Happy New
For
Year,
me.
everybody, and love you guys so
That's
much.
right. We-
Thank you to everybody who's here.
That's right. We won't see you until well after the New Year. So thank you everybody for making it here tonight, especially on Facebook. Destiny, we love you, Dave and Bridget. Well, I love you too. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time in another lovely episode of Squawking Dead. Thanks, Carol.
Silo.
Thank you, Bridget.
Silo.
Oh yeah, we got Silo. We got
We're
3
still
episodes
covering
of Silo.
Silo.
to go,
You'll
yeah.
literally see us
So-
like in a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hey Zayna.
See everybody. Bye.
Also, bye.
Hey, Zayna. Bye. Sorry. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.